Hello and welcome to Zoom for Performance Part 2. Today we're just going to look at some of the basic features of being in a meeting and what you can control. We're going to do this before we have an audience so that we can just get familiar. If you're already very familiar with Zoom, you can probably skip this one and head straight to the next one. But if you like to just get a quick little orientation of being in a Zoom meeting, stick around. I am just going to start this meeting here that I've already set up. This will give me the prompt to open Zoom Meetings, which is the desktop application, which you will want to have installed, and you'll want to encourage your audience to have installed as well. Here I am. It gives me an image of myself. Once I load into the meeting's now started and other people could join if anybody knew about it. Of course they don't. So I'll just go along this bottom row here to give you a sense of what all these do. And there will be more options once we're inside a meeting. At the top, you can see that it's already recording because the meeting settings meant that I would be recording this meeting as soon as it started. You can change that, so you have to click record. I'm just going to leave that recording as it is. And once I click microphone here, this will give me options for both my microphone and my speaker. I am just using an external microphone, and here it has selected the microphone as a speaker, which isn't going to work because it's a microphone, not a speaker. But it will default to trying to use the same device for both microphone and speaker. It tends to prefer that. It's used to the idea that this device would be a headphone set with a microphone in it. If you use different things, if you use just an output from your computer for the speaker and an external microphone, sometimes it can have issues with clipping. So if you are having some audio issues, sometimes it can be that, and you might need to go and change which output you are using. Here it is one of the many places you can go to settings. You can also go to video settings here. Either way, you will end up in settings. And once you're there, you can do a whole bunch of things. So let's just jump into there. These are audio settings where you can leave it at automatically adjust, or you can adjust the volume of your microphone and your speakers as you like. You also have a bunch of different options here. Press and hold space to temporarily unmute is handy, depending on how you're structuring your show and when you want people muted. It can be a very useful way of managing a scene if you have several actors who want to be able to unmute themselves. There are other ways of managing that as well, which we'll go into once we have people in a meeting. You have video settings here as well, which is your camera. You can change which camera and do a bunch of things here. I won't go into too much depth with all of these settings because there are a lot of them, but just know this is where you're going to find all of your settings. Here we have virtual background. I'll just show you this quickly. You can access that through this little menu down here as well. To choose virtual background will take you straight to this part of the settings. And here we can decide that we have a spacey background and we've got a scene set in space, or perhaps we're in a spooky forest or in a tropical beach. And this can be fun for scenes with actors where you're changing location, or you want your scene to play out in a specific place. This is using an algorithm to recognize my face and my hands. You'll see the hands disappear sometimes once it can tell there's a hand there or not. If you want this to be better, then you need to get yourself a green screen, which there's a little button down here that says I have a green screen. And then if you have your background that's all one color, it can be a green screen or a blue screen. You can then use that, and it will do a much better job of distinguishing yourself from the background. There are other settings here, but we'll just leave them for now because we just want to run through the basics. Actually, I'll leave it back to there. And let's go across these settings here. Security gives you options as to whether or not you let people share the screen or have access to chat. If you want to not have a chat, you can do that. And sharing screen if you haven't automatically enabled that, you might need to tick that there so that other people can share screens. Some of your performers might need to share that screen if they're presenting something, or you have something pre-recorded that you want to present. This participants menu will give you a way to look at all of the people in your show and mute them, rename them, and you'll be able to see just that little mic moving up and down. That gives you a sense of where sound is coming from. If you have weird background noise coming into what's happening and you don't know where it's coming from, and you have everyone unmuted, you can go through and maybe sometimes check that to see where the sound's coming from. And you might need to mute some people. There I am. You might need to mute some people if they've got a lot of background noise, when otherwise you'd like to have everyone unmuted so you get that sort of crowd noise and reactions and laughter, that kind of thing. So there is your mute all button as well, which is handy. And there's a few more options in there where you can restrict what people do so that you have complete control over whether you mute or unmute or rename people. Locking meeting is in there, but it's also in security as well. I don't recommend it because sometimes people drop out because of their internet connection and need to rejoin your meeting. But if you need a high security, that's an option. Polls are here. I've made a poll already, this way or that. You can launch polling there, and you can edit that poll. If you go to edit that poll, you will end up back in the browser because that's where you need to do your polls. And there you have that option as well. If you do that, you will also need to go into here in order to add more. If I didn't have one set up already, then just a sec. There we go. If I didn't have that already set up, it would have a create poll button here, which would then take me out to the browser. So you can just make polls as you go, but it's generally a good idea to have them already set up before you start the meeting. Here is your pause and stop recording. This is Zoom recording everything that happens. Here is breakout rooms, which we'll go into more detail once there are people. And you can create a certain number of rooms and it will automatically split everyone evenly into those rooms, or you can manually do it, which is a bit laborious. I find this a little bit odd where it keeps going in front of my face of all the places. Here is clapping and thumbs up. It's just another way that people can react to what's happening. It's a little bit, it's not sort of all that great, really. It's much better to have people unmuted and laughing and saying and doing this. So I find these a little bit useless and not really worth doing. Here in more, we have live on Facebook. So this will also give other options if you have YouTube enabled, where you can stream your meeting, where you might want a limited number of people experiencing through Zoom, but you might also want to be sending out as a stream to another service, and that's where those options will be. So that's all we're going to cover for now. I just wanted to give you a basic familiarity of this so we don't need to go through it when we have an actual meeting running with people. And that's what we'll do next. We'll invite a few people to a meeting, and I'll show you a little bit more about breakout rooms and about the waiting room and Spotlight and a few things like that as to how to actually run a show. So that'll be coming up next. First, I will just end meeting. If you leave meeting, that will mean you'll need to assign hosting to somebody else. We don't have anyone else to assign that to. So for now, I'm just going to end meeting for all, which will give you this message, which has meant it's failed to convert the recording. That's because something else is in progress. That's because I just did another version of this, which means it was still trying to convert the previous file that I'd created. And that's what this is browsing for a folder to save that particular file. So because that hadn't finished, it failed to actually create another recording from this particular meeting. So that's just something to be aware of. It's kind of a good thing it happened. There's a mistake. If you want to make sure you get a converted recording, then you need to make sure you're not already doing it from the previous recording. I'll just say okay. That means I don't have that recording, but that's okay because I'm using a different service. So that's it for now. Thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.